You're really welcome to this session today. And I know just from myself and from seeing right across social, I know an awful lot of people have been affected by seeing the social network on Netflix. And so I'm really delighted that something like this has actually come to the fore right now because um, it's kind of like somebody has finally talked about the elephant in the room and finally been brave enough to bring it up. So I will be asking you guys to use the chat function, right? So if you'd like, because normally I'd be in a room with you guys and I'd be able to see your faces and I'd be asking you to raise your hands and all the rest of it. But I'd love to know, like, watching Social Dilemma, did you get a little bit freaked out? Was this just confirming stuff that you already know? What sort of feelings did it bring up for you? Because I know some of the conversations I had, because people know I do this kind of work, and I had messages and I had calls, and people were very freaked out. They were very freaked out, and there's a lot as well. You can go down rabbit holes about AI, and if you listen to Elon Musk talking about AI and talking about the future, and he talks about we cannot have these robots on the streets out to destroy us, and it can actually get quite frightening. And part of what I'm here to do today is to make sure that I alleviate your fears and that you can be very positive as opposed to being freaked out. Now, there's just a little bit of sort of, the tech side that I'll talk to you about, right? So, um, this in particular, right? It's actually affected our brain chemistry. It's altered our brain chemistry, and all the actions that we take every day and what we decide to do. So even things like Sudoku, these can alter our brain chemistry in a good way. But just stuff to be aware of with the phone, what's happening. I'm sure you've heard some of these, like that our concentration spans are getting shorter. And things are happening to our synapses in our brains. We find it much more difficult to stay focused on one thing. I've heard from people that they are really finding it difficult to read a regular book. And it used to be the case that like a 30-second video, it had to capture you in 30 seconds, and now it's like, no, literally somebody has 2 to 3 seconds to capture our attention, or that's it, we're gone. It's almost like we're addicts, and something like that just isn't addictive enough. It's not fulfilling enough for our brains. So we do need to be aware of that an over reliance on this is going to alter how you function as a human being, right? Now, do you remember being at school and a teacher would give out to you for daydreaming, and you'd just be looking out the window and your thoughts would meander, or the fact that you could go for a walk, or while you're waiting in a coffee queue. We had all of these little opportunities throughout our days before these came on the scene. Like, we've only had these for about a decade, and it's quite extraordinary. We had pockets during every single day where our thoughts just went off. And it could be that we were thinking about what we're going to cook for dinner, what we need to pick up in the supermarket, or it could be, what do I want to do with my life? Or, oh, I like that painting and it reminds me of this and this. But what happens in our brains is we go into something called the default network mode. And this only happens when your brain isn't receiving other inputs. Now, it's a really, really crucial state for us to get into. And the more regularly we can get into it, the better it is for our lives, because this is where creativity happens. And funnily enough, this is where certain thought processes happen automatically in our brain that actually increase our proclivity for social connections, particularly now when our opportunity to be social has been diminished for us. It's really, really important that we find ways to be social, but that we activate this default network mode. Like, I know it's happened to all of us. You're in the shower and then boom, you just get this thought. You've figured out a puzzle, or you're about to fall asleep at night and then a solution comes to you. all of these little eurekas and puzzle finishing times, it's because our brains are in the default network mode. Now, we are in an always on society. Well, how I want you to think about this, right? So every Thursday is when the bin men come around here to collect our bins. Can you imagine if something went wrong and instead of all the bins going into their big truck, somehow they emptied all the bins in my living room? Can you imagine facing that? And yet every morning, right? As soon as you decide let me go to Twitter, let me go to Facebook, let me go to a news station, let me go to RTE, let me go to whatever it is. It's like you're inviting the world, say, hey, chuck all your junk in here. Whatever you want to throw in here, I'm here, ready and waiting to go through it, to waste my precious time on it. That's a visual I really want you to take to heart when it comes to the difference between input and output. So every time you expose yourself to somebody else's thoughts, okay, that's what you're doing every time you come on here. Even when we listen to podcasts, or even when we listen to books or read books, every time we have a conversation, we are opening ourselves up to that person's thoughts, beliefs, right? Now, you know yourself, if there's somebody that bores you, or there's somebody that's like really into politics and you're not, or really into COVID and you're not, you avoid them or you spend less time with them. We're a little bit the same with the phone, right? We get to be the human, the inanimate object. We're the boss. We're in charge, not this thing. Now, you might be aware, or it comes from, just watching Social Dilemma. An awful lot of people, their job is to manipulate you. Their job is to make sure that you're on this as much as you possibly can be, because that's how they make money. They make money from your clicks, from your likes. They make money from keeping you on it and then selling on that data. Now, do you like being manipulated? I want you to think about that for a minute. Do you like being manipulated? Because you get to stand up and say, I'm the boss of me. I'm not going to allow these guys to manipulate me, or I'm going to minimize the amount of time that they have an opportunity to manipulate me. Now, I do want you to be aware of the fact that this stuff is deliberately addictive. It's deliberately addictive. So if you watched it, you'll have heard a lot from Tristan Harris, he set up, the Center for Humane Technology. And it's about technology that serves us rather than technology that makes money from advertising to us nonstop. So if you take up your phones now, right, obviously mine is on airplane mode because I'm giving this talk. Now, that's my first screen, my second, the third, right? So you'll notice there's only one notification, and it's one I can't get rid of. I don't want to upgrade to do the software update. So that notification stays there all the time, so it doesn't bother me. But on my front screen, right, what I have is on here, the podcast link, okay? So that's deliberate. I'll decide who to listen to. I have several meditation apps, depending on what it is that I need. And I have Duolingo because I'm learning Spanish. So that's my home screen. You might notice as well that I have Ecosia as my, I don't have Google. I don't have Google on here. It's quite funny to me that in the Social Dilemma, somebody, a contributor quite near the end, recommended Googling something. And Google is highly censorious. And Google has been up before Congress a couple of times this summer and recently. And Google is very problematic in that Google really wants to direct how you think. So we're about not being manipulated. We're about making decisions for ourselves. So do consider an alternative browser. I choose Ecosia because they plan Treasa after I make a certain number of searches. But what I have popped on there, and it's not something I use, right? But I popped it on to show you. There's something called Focus Keeper. Now, the thing about Focus Keeper, right? You can decide, for example, I'm going to work on something for 25 minutes, then I'll allow myself a 5-minute break. And then, so what happens is you get timer alarms, and something like that is very convenient. However, if you can combat tech with a non-tech solution, that's what I'd love for you to do, to use less tech rather than more tech. We'll get into the non-tech later, but definitely a timer is very useful. Now you can use the clock function on your phone. It's perfectly fine. Set the timer for however long that you want. And the other thing is to combine it with what's known as a power hour. So you actually switch off all of your notifications for that time. You switch off, you put it on do not disturb. So literally nothing can get to you except the work that you're dealing with there and then. But my second page, right, is literally everything to do with the other part of my work. It's I do Zumba, so this is my music apps, my where I actually upload the classes and everything like that. So my second screen is work. Okay, it's just work. Now you don't get into anything else, and for me, it's the third screen. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to your phone, right, and move, click on the click on the apps and move them to a much, much later page. This is singularly the most effective thing that you can do. One of my friends I rolled a few weeks ago, and she said she just can't believe the difference. I said to her, are you brave enough to just get rid of Facebook altogether on your phone? So you have to wait until you go to your laptop. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I want you to move it to your furthest away page. So for her, that was page 5. She couldn't believe the difference it made. It was twofold. One, she kind of forgot it was there because it wasn't any longer on the main page. The second thing was, as she went through her pages, something else would catch her eye. And she was spending far, far less time on Facebook. So that's the first. It's one of the strongest things that you can do. Now, for you, it might not be Facebook. It could be Instagram. It could be a news station. But whatever is your most used one, straight away, put it to the very, very last page. Now, when it comes to messaging, right, you will notice that there's not a single notification on there, like a little red. Now, it's not that I'm up to date, not at all. And it's not that there's nothing waiting for me, but there is no psychological trigger. So a psychologist actually implemented the red color on the alerts on Facebook day one, and all of the other channels have copied it because it's so effective. What it signals to our primal brains is danger, danger, danger. So immediately it means our eyes, our attention, we move and we grab it. Okay, so that's the second thing I would like you to do. Now it takes a while, so make a note of it. You're going to switch all of your notifications off, all of them off. So people who know me know by now, if they really need me urgently, they need to call me. If I don't call, that's fine. It means I'm not available if I don't answer the phone. But they know if they've messaged me and I've not responded, they need to call me. It's relatively recent, this whole thing of I need to be contacted. I need to know straight away. I need to respond to something. Why? 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 We always just need to be asking, why? Why is this important? Why does this need to be done now? You will probably notice a weight lifted when you're no longer confronted with the red buttons constantly at you. Now, what this leads into, it's my first book recommendation, which is a guy called, I'll type it in the chat, okay? Nur Ayal, Indistractable. And Now, one of the things that he talks about is actually building in distraction breaks. So you acknowledge for you, whatever it is, whichever social media, whatever, that's your distraction. Just call it a distraction. But you build in distraction breaks into your day. So you literally think, okay, I'm going to get 2 hours of work done or this done on this project or whatever it is, but you build in, you actually have, okay, at 20 past 11 today, for 20 minutes, I am going to Twitter. And it's in the diary, you have an alarm, and you have an alarm when it ends. Now, there's a couple of things for this. One, you can look forward to it. You can look forward to that engagement. You're acknowledging it's addictive, but you're planning when you're going to go for the distraction break. The second thing is, if you only have a few times a day that you're allowing yourself to have these distraction breaks, it means you can't just graze on everything for the couple of hours that you used to. So this is another opportunity for you to question, who do I want to follow? Are there people that I need to snooze or unfollow? Are there tabs and bookmarks that I need to make for or use a tweet deck for particular people that I don't want to miss out on? Really important question. How does this activity enhance my life? So say, for example, I mostly use social for business reasons. And it's about, okay, across all the platforms, which one's actually serving me the most? Which ones are serving me? Which ones aren't serving me at all? Where do I have great conversations, great insights, great connections? Where do I have actual business coming from versus where's there just tumbleweed or negativity or, weigh up where you spend your time online and how you present yourself online. And it's a great opportunity to then decide either I don't need this at all, or I'm not sure if I need it. So how about I actually don't go on for a week and just measure then how it is afterwards. Now, the thing about, measuring whether something is valuable to you or not, right? So Charles Darwin would be appalled. He said, a man who dares to waste an hour of life has not discovered the value of life. So if Darwin saw us, he would be absolutely appalled at what he calls this, wasting of our lives online. But then you skip forward, sort of 100 years, a bit more, and you have Bertrand Russell. And he said, the time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. So, this is all about self-awareness. Do you remember that song years ago? Oh my gosh, I think it was a one-hit wonder from Chesney Hawkes. It was, You're my favorite waste of time. Don't forget, this is all about being human. And we're actually being given a very, very unique opportunity right now. The lockdowns and the restrictions and the awareness about COVID, right? It has put us into a situation where we're in a bit of a mini experiment right now. So I want you to grab the old pen and paper. And what I want you to write down is, what are all of the things that you miss the most right now? What are the things that you would do if all of the restrictions lifted? What are the things that you would do straight away within the next week, within the next month? This is a really, really valuable exercise. And I want you to take note of it so that you can come back to it later. Because what surprised most of us is how simple and unluxurious the things that are really important to us are. And if you think about what makes us human and what makes us different from the robots that are to come, are our five senses and the sixth one, intuition. So if we think touch, taste, hear, see, smell, it is about seeing people we love being around. With the touch, it's about huge hugs. It's about dancing. It's about eating great meals or drinking great drinks. Hearing, it's about hearing voices of people we love. It's about hearing comedy and hearing singing artists. It's about seeing incredible shows or dances. It's about going beyond the 2 kilometers, the 5 kilometers, whatever it is. Some countries you can't even go outside your house, so various things. So if you think about all of those senses, they're what make us human, and they're the things that we miss. They're the things that we would like to spend our life doing. So when I talk about having a non-tech solution to tech, right? I do want you to have somewhere for yourself where you write down, if I had 5 hours and I wasn't restricted by COVID-y things, this is how I would like to spend it. Guaranteed, not a single one of you would say, I would like to spend those 5 hours catching up on social media, catching up on news. Not a single one of us would say that. We would spend the time sitting down having the chats and the giggles with friends. We would be out. We would be experiencing, tasting, seeing, touching, hearing. That's what we would be doing. And I'll ask you, if you look back at October, what are all the things you did in October? For so many people, it's I worked, I ate, I slept, I Netflix binged. Now, we have one precious life, and we've been fed a message of, this is going on, and to do your bit, what you have to do is stay home and watch TV. That's what you have to do. But it's life. Our lives are restricted right now, but how much living are we getting to do? Because just like Viktor Frankl, his life was incredibly restricted. It's a major understatement to say that in the concentration camp. It was only by the choice of how you think, the choice of how you think, and the choice of how you feel. And so even with the restrictions, right? I want you to write down the emotion. If I say to you, I'd like you to leave the phone behind for 1 hour and go for a walk, and be honest with yourself. Do you get major separation anxiety? Do you panic? Do you think, oh, yeah, no problem, I forget my phone all the time? Or is it relief that for that half hour or hour that you're out walking, not a single soul can interrupt you? You're gone, there's no way to contact you. Now, it should give us a sense of freedom, and our reliance has become such on the phones that actually makes people panic. What about an entire afternoon and you're out of the house and the phone is here? Now, I get it when it comes to photographs, I get it. But most of us have older phones hanging around that don't have a SIM card in them, so they can't pick up data. Take that with you, take a photograph, and you might feel momentarily, oh my gosh, I can't upload this to Instagram immediately. That feeling passes. And of course, the bigger step is to have a digital Sabbath. It's up to you. I mean, Sabbath, it's depending on your religion, it was a Saturday or a Sunday, but how about a whole day where you're back to, oh my gosh, jigsaws and board games and conversations and watching a really old movie with people or kids or partners or whatever, with digging up a cookery book and baking something or cooking something or whatever it is, but finding something for an entire day using an old CD, but literally not actually using tech at all. And we did have a couple of nights during the first lockdown where we had no electricity, and it's amazing. All of a sudden, then you have no choice. Once the battery runs out, it's gone. And what else is it that you're going to do in its stead? So I just want to make sure that there's nothing. Yeah, no, that's okay. The other thing is sort of the final thing, has to do with what is it that you would like? What is it that you would like to achieve? Now, when I say achieve, please don't think of it in terms of, you know, one has to be productive during the lockdown. Okay. The lockdown affects us all in different ways, right? And if you're somebody who's quite given to worry, then that can be enough pressure on you. But if you accept that even with restrictions, we have lives to be lived and we have human lives to live, we have human things to do, things that involve all our senses, then what would you like to look back on and think, well, this is what I achieved for myself? Now, it could be, you know, that you're spending, one of my friends, her husband is spending 5 hours a day on learning German because he's furloughed, and she's picked up art. And that's great for people that have the time and the inclination and everything. But it could even be that you want to come out of here with a greater peace of mind. So right at the back of the beginning, I talked about the default network mode. And an ex-New Yorker writer called Andrew Sullivan talked about losing the ability to just to concentrate for long enough to get certain thoughts out, just to be able to read. And one thing that's been proven to actually improve our ability to stay connected and to stay focused and to pop into the default network mode more often, believe it or not, is meditation. I mean, it's at the stage that no matter what topic I talk about, somewhere along the line, it boils down to meditation. So, what happens with meditations and concentrating on your breathing is that you're very present. You're very present, and eventually, over time, your brain stops being crowded with anxious thoughts. You learn how to set them aside, you learn how to be present, and your worries lift. And it's an incredible thing to be able to do at this time, is to start doing something that makes you feel better every single day while more and more anxieties are coming our way. And it also helps you to be in the default network mode, which will help you break an addiction to these. And it will help you to be more creative, more fluent and capable in everything that you're doing. And it will help your mood. So it's something that I would definitely recommend. Because even for myself, I started sea swimming, and I'm telling you, getting into the cold sea, everything else goes out of your mind. You're there, you're present, you're feeling everything. Like your skin is alive, you're, you know, concentrating on calming your breathing so you're not hyperventilating. But I'm very human. I'm very human when I'm in the sea every day. And if you'd like to read further, there is a great guy called Cal Newport, and his second book is the one that tackles a lot of what we're talking about today, and it's called Digital Minimalism. And what Cal talks about is using, you know, just being very, very clear about what you use tech for, and to make sure that it's enhancing you as a human as opposed to detracting from you as a human. And I'm going to read you a tiny bit. This is a great book. I hope it's not inverted on your screen, but Ryan Holiday's Stillness is the Key. And we could think, because these have been around for such a short period of time, we can think that this is a modern phenomenon, and it's not. I mean, Lao Tzu, thousands of years ago, said the mind tends towards stillness, but is opposed by craving. And, you know, they definitely did not have tech back then, but this primal issue was still there. Even Marcus Aurelius, you know, again, 2000 years ago, we try, in the words of Marcus Aurelius, to shrug it all off and wipe it clean, every annoyance and distraction, and reach utter stillness. Talks about building a kind of a mental vault or stronghold that no distraction or false impression can breach. And it builds, it takes a two-pronged attack to build to a place where we can find stillness and peace and a lack of that craving that Lao Tzu was talking about. So, sort of to recap, and before I open you guys up for questions, it's about being savvy, about moving things along, taking off the notifications, um, but it's also taking the time to question yourself. What do I want my days to be filled with? What are the human things that I want in my day rather than this? Um, it's a very powerful question because it's very individual to you. What's important to you is important to you. And that will help you when you're tempted. Just a final thing, because it comes into my sleep workshops, but it's inanimate. It never, ever, ever belongs in the bedroom. Okay? Studies have shown that when it's within reach, it's literally something that's here in your mind, and you're much more likely to go for it. Don't let it be the first thing you go to either in the morning, because remember, that's like the bin men chucking all their junk and stinky rubbish in your front room. Okay? You're going to decide when you're going to first engage and allow anybody or any app to put something into your brain. Have a phone box. I have a sleeping phone box out here, and that's where the phone goes, and my daughter's phone in the nighttime. As I say, use an older phone if you have one hanging around for photographs, even to have music on it, or even to download meditations so that you're not reliant. I listen to meditations in the morning, but on the sofa with a nice snuggly blanket. Avoid, if at all, you can avoid having the phone in the bed. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you guys again soon.